Most people think intelligence is a race. They think it's about how fast you solve a problem, how much information you can hoard, or how quickly you can learn a new language. But there's a type of intelligence so rare and so fundamentally different that most psychologists didn't even have a formal name for its highest form until recently. If you have it, you've probably spent your entire life feeling like you're operating on a completely different frequency than everyone around you. You don't just think, you watch yourself think. It's called metacognitive intelligence. And it's not about what you think. It's about how you think about how you think. If that sentence just made perfect sense to you, if you immediately grasp the recursive Hall of Mirrors loop, it describes you might be part of the 0.1% of the population that operates with this specific cognitive profile. Think of it like this. If traditional IQ is a car engine, your raw horsepower, your speed, your torque, then metacognitive IQ is the master driver. You can have a V12 engine, the most powerful machine on the planet, but if you don't know how to handle the weight, how to drift the corners, or when to hit the brakes, you're just going to spin out on the first turn. Metacognition is the supervisor. It's the parallel program running in the background of your mind, quality checking every thought, questioning every bias, and tweaking your internal strategy in real time. For most people, thinking is something that happens to them. For the 0.1%, thinking is a process they are actively observing while it occurs. And that one extra layer, it changes absolutely everything. So how do you know if you're just smart or if you're operating with this rare metacognitive architecture? It isn't about your grades or your job title. It shows up in the quiet, specific ways your brain handles reality. There are 5 definitive signs. Sign 1, the observer position. Most people get lost in the moment. They get absorbed in a movie, an argument, or a sunset. But if you have high metacognitive intelligence, there is a part of you that never fully shuts off. Even in your most emotional moments, even when you're crying or laughing, there's a witness consciousness standing back, taking notes. It's not dissociation, it's hyperconnection. You are simultaneously inside the experience and outside of it, analyzing the watching. If you've ever felt guilty for not being fully present because you were too busy analyzing your own presence, this is why. Sign 2, precision over speed. Have you ever noticed that when some people are asked a complex question, they answer instantly? But the metacognitive thinker often pauses. That silence isn't because you're slow, it's because you're running a deep cognitive scan. In that 2-second pause, your brain is checking the context, looking for hidden biases, considering the consequences of your words, and filtering out the noise to find the absolute truth. You aren't looking for the fastest answer, you're looking for the truest one. Sign 3, radical intellectual humility. For most people, their opinions are their identity. If you challenge their belief, you're attacking them. But for the 0.1%, opinions are just tools. You are genuinely comfortable with the words, "I don't know." You'd rather find the truth than win the argument. You see being wrong not as a failure, but as a firmware update. You're constantly looking for ways to prove yourself wrong so you can upgrade your mental model. Sign 4, the complexity filter. There's a myth that sounding smart means using big, complicated jargon. It's actually the opposite. The real sign of high metacognition is the ability to take a massive, messy, chaotic subject and boil it down to its simple, elegant core. If you can explain a quantum physics concept to a 5-year-old without losing the essence, it shows you haven't just memorized the data, you've mastered it. You've mapped the why behind the what. Sign 5, cognitive flexibility. This is the rarest of them all. It's the ability to hold 2 opposing ideas in your head at the same time without losing your mind. You can understand a perspective you completely disagree with, simulate it in your head, and see the logic behind it, all while maintaining your own stance. When you pull these 5 signs together, the observer, the precision, the humility, the simplicity, and the flexibility, you get a picture of someone who isn't just bright. You get the master driver. But as any driver knows, maintaining that level of control at high speeds comes with a massive cost. Here is what the productivity gurus and the high IQ societies don't tell you. Operating at this level of awareness is neurologically expensive. Every layer of meta-analysis, every time you watch yourself think, analyze your biases, or simulate an opponent's argument, consumes massive amounts of cognitive glucose. And unlike a math problem that you can choose to solve or put down, metacognitive processing is largely involuntary. You can't just turn it off. Research shows that individuals with high metacognitive function have elevated baseline activity in their monitoring networks even when they are supposedly at rest. Your brain literally doesn't sleep the same way other brains do. This produces a very specific type of exhaustion. It's not physical tiredness. It's the deep systemic burnout of a mind that never stops auditing itself. You can spend a relaxing weekend at the beach and come home feeling drained because you were subconsciously analyzing the social dynamics of the group, the narrative structure of the book you were reading, and the chemical shifts in your own mood. But the most confusing cost is what psychologists call delayed emotional processing. Because your observer is always the first responder, your initial reaction to a crisis, or even a triumph, isn't emotional. It's analytical. Something tragic happens, and while everyone else is reacting with immediate grief, your brain is already 3 steps ahead. Why did this happen? What is the most efficient response? How am I supposed to feel right now? To the outside world, you look like a rock. You look exceptionally calm, level-headed, maybe even cold. But you aren't cold. You're just delayed. The emotion is stuck in the queue, waiting for the analytical processing to finish. It might hit you 3 hours later while you're washing dishes, or 3 days later when you're finally alone. By the time you actually feel the weight of the moment, the rest of the world has already moved on. They've finished their mourning or they're celebrating and you're just arriving. You experience your deepest emotional life in a vacuum, on a timeline that no one else can see. This creates a lag in your human connection. You are always present, but you are rarely in sync. This leads to what might be the most defining feature of the metacognitive profile: a profound, quiet sense of loneliness. It isn't because people don't like you. It isn't because you lack social skills. It's because the way you process reality is fundamentally different from how 99.9% of the humans you will ever meet process reality. That gap is nearly impossible to bridge with just words. Research shows that the deepest human bonds are formed when 2 people process information on the same wavelength. But when your cognitive architecture is built on recursive loops, on thinking about thinking, intuitive understanding becomes rare. You can have partners, friends, and family who love you deeply, but there is always a layer of your internal experience they cannot access. You see the disconnect. You analyze the misunderstanding while it's happening. And in a strange way, that metacognitive awareness makes the loneliness sharper. You can see exactly why you aren't being understood, yet you're powerless to change the frequency of the room. So, what does all of this mean? It means if you recognized yourself in the perpetual observer, the delayed wave of emotion, or the systemic exhaustion of a mind that never sleeps, you aren't broken. You aren't too much. You aren't cold. You are operating with a cognitive architecture designed for a different kind of mastery. I'll be sharing more videos like this on psychology and self-understanding. Subscribe if this content resonates with you.